The Forgotten War. Yemen in the media's blind spot. In the heart of the Arabian Peninsula lies Yemen, a nation rich in culture and history, now ravaged by a decades-long civil war. Despite being one of the modern world's most devastating conflicts, the Yemeni crisis remains underreported and misunderstood. In this presentation, we will delve into the complexities of the Yemeni civil war and how media coverage, or lack thereof, can have a massive impact. The Yemeni civil war began in 2014 when Houthi rebels, a Shiite minority group from the north, seized the capital, Sana'a, challenging the internationally recognized government. In 2015, a Saudi-led coalition backed by the United States intervened militarily to restore the government, leading to a continued and deadly conflict. The war has resulted in over 150,000 deaths, widespread famine, and the displacement of millions. But one of the most devastating and often overlooked consequences has been the outbreak of disease. Since 2016, Yemen has faced the worst cholera outbreak in modern history, with more than 2.5 million suspected cases and thousands of deaths, many of them children. Cholera spreads through dirty water and poor sanitation, conditions made worse by the collapse of Yemen's healthcare and water system due to years of war. To understand how serious this is, think about the Flint water crisis in Michigan, where around 100,000 people were exposed to contaminated water. It became a major news story in the US and sparked protests, investigations, and reforms. Now imagine that scale, but affecting millions, with far fewer resources and little global attention. That's Yemen's reality. And while both situations deserve attention, the comparison shows how some crises are covered widely, while others, even more severe, barely make headlines. Why does Yemen's crisis garner so little media coverage? Several factors contribute to this disparity. According to the Columbia Journalism Review, logistical challenges, safety concerns, and limited access have slowed journalists from reporting on the ground. Additionally, the complexity of the conflict makes it less accessible to international audience as the understanding of the situation is small. Comparatively, conflicts like the war in Ukraine receive extensive coverage. A study by American University highlights that the U.S. media attention often aligns with national interests, leading to biased reporting and selective coverage. Media bias isn't limited to underreporting. Within Yemen, press freedom is severely restricted. The Atlantic Council reports that journalists face threats from both the Houthi rebels and the Saudi-led coalition, leading to a dangerous media landscape. Internationally, media coverage of the Yemen conflict often reflects the political interests of the countries behind the headlines. For example, Al Jazeera, based in Qatar, and Al Arabiya, based in Saudi Arabia, have both been criticized for their biased reporting. Al Jazeera tends to highlight the humanitarian consequences of the Saudi-led coalition's actions in Yemen, a stance that aligns with Qatar's political rivalry with Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Al Arabiya often frames the conflict in terms of Iran's support for the Houthis and emphasizes Saudi Arabia's efforts to stabilize the region, reflecting the Saudi government's perspective. It should be noted that a majority of civilian deaths have been due to Saudi-backed militias. While both outlets provide valuable information, their coverage often leans towards narratives that support their respective governments' foreign policy goals. This shows how even major news sources can shape public understanding by selectively reporting facts or focusing more heavily on one side of the story.
Neil at the buzzer! Bang!
Beyond the battlefield, Yemen faces a humanitarian crisis. Time magazine's photojournalist Alex Potter documented the resilience of Yemeni communities amidst widespread famine and healthcare collapse. Despite these harrowing conditions, international aid remains insufficient, and media coverage fails to convey the full extent of the crisis. Social media has become a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives space for first-hand accounts from Yemeni civilians and independent journalists. But on the other, it has become a breeding ground for misinformation. During the Red Sea crisis, this problem intensified. In late 2023 and into 2024, Houthi forces began targeting commercial ships in the Red Sea, claiming they were acting in solidarity with Palestinians during the Israel-Gaza conflict. In response, US and UK forces launched airstrikes on Houthi positions in Yemen. As international tensions rose, fake images and videos circulated widely online, falsely showing attacks that never happened or misrepresenting old footage as current events. Some posts blamed the wrong parties entirely, which confused public perception and boosted political division. The instability in the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest shipping routes, has further disrupted the flow of aid into Yemen. Ports like Hodeidah, already strained by blockades and conflict, became harder to access, delaying shipments of food, medicine, and fuel. Much of the coverage was distorted, and the humanitarian impact was largely overlooked. Yeah, that sounds cool and all, but how can I help? Yemen's war is not just a regional issue. It's a catastrophe that demands global attention. By acknowledging media biases and seeking more diverse sources, we can build a more educated and empathetic global community. Remember that these are people too. Do not allow Yemen to remain a forgotten war. Awareness is the first step to change.